Good evening. Welcome to RPLA Showcase. My name is Bill Opperman, and it is my privilege to host this first installment of the showcase for 2020. My guest is Marina Brown. Marina Brown has written for newspapers and magazines for the last 20 years, including the St. Petersburg Times, the Tallahassee Democrat, Florida Design and Dance magazine. She is the recipient of numerous national writing awards. 2 first-place awards in the Porter Fleming Short Story Contest, second place in the Lorien Hemingway Contest for Short Stories, first place in the Red Hills Poetry Contest, and the Florida Authors and Publishers Association Silver Medal for her poetry volume, Leaf Does Not Believe It Will Fall. In 2020, Brown was nominated for the State of Florida Poet Laureate. Brown's novels, Land Without Mirrors from 2013, and Lisbeth, 2017, both won gold medals in literary fiction from the FAPA. Her most recent novel, Orphan of Petidiano, won the Florida Writers Association's Royal Palm Literary Award Gold Medal for published historical fiction, as well as the top award, a Published Book of the Year. Gosh, that sounded cool. I'm going to say it again. The 2020 Published Book of the Year. Brown is a former professional ballet dancer, sailor, watercolorist, cellist, and a traveler. She lives in Tallahassee. Marina, welcome and congratulations on your RPLA awards.
Thank you so much to you personally, William, and I really want to express my thanks to everybody at the RLPA and the Florida Writers Association. It has been, a true thrill to win both a gold medal and especially the Published Book of the Year, but also to work with all of you. You have been so professional, so detail-oriented, so supportive. My thanks also to the judges, because I think novel assessment, we'll call it, must be one of the most difficult things assigned to any writing critic. So thank you to each and every one of you.
I feel just like Terry Gross. I'm going to ask you to read a passage from your book. Would you like me to read the log line, or do you want to just tell us what's going on?
You can read the log line if you like.
Okay. In 1938, Italy, Juliana and her 2 cousins are torn apart as they try to conceal their Jewish identities. Etruscan tombs, unholy plotting, and il malocchio, the evil eye, are dangers far greater than the Nazi threat.
You're absolutely right. And so this scene that I'm going to read is set in Italy in 1938, as the 2 families with a brother and sister and a single child amongst them are attempting to flee to the ghetto in Petigliano. It turns out that Italy really was much kinder to their Jewish population than elsewhere in Europe at that time. Juliana could smell the earth. She could smell the people who huddled against it like worms, hoping to find a soft patch in which to burrow. Without lights, she could smell their breath and tell which of her relatives had eaten a morsel of bread and which ones saved their own hunger to give a few crumbs to the younger ones. In the darkness, she would let her fingers trace the buttons and hems of their clothes, the coarse stitching of seams, their knitted shawls made from the wool of sheep grazed on this very Italian soil. And though now you couldn't tell they were yellow, she could also feel the rough edges of where stars had been sewn onto the clothes of everyone inside the cave. And in spite of the cold, knowing they were now gone, made her feel happy. Only Enrico, who is her uncle, heard the old woman's knock. But when the crude wooden door was shoved open, everyone in the cave felt the rush of icy air. And with no more than a shoved finger into a shoulder, the family told each other it was time to go. And ahead of her, Juliana saw the humped silhouettes of her family as they crawled out on all fours, like lumbering camels against an indigo sky. They all stayed very quiet as they climbed, yet Juliana could not suppress a gasp when the family suddenly emerged from the forested trail and stopped to catch their breath below the towering mass that was Petigliano. If she were to lie on her back and and look up, she was sure the dark hulk that was part mountain and part enormous city would still cover half of the velvety sky. It looked impenetrable, a city that had always been there, from ancient peoples of the East to Etruscans to Romans to the medieval Medici lords, built on a platform of stone where 6- and 7-story buildings, towers and turrets, fountains and crenellated walls roughly clawed at the sky. "We must be very careful here, very, very quiet," Juliana's uncle whispered from the head of the line. "The guide says there was a rally here last night, fascist youth from Milano, well-trained and excitable. She does not believe they have left." The family had been climbing for a half hour in silence, plunging through the thick brush and across ancient Etruscan excavations where their shadows threaded together in a visual echo of their sweating chain. When suddenly, only steps from Juliana, Rebecca dropped to her knees. "A snake, Mama, a snake!" It was the hatching season for vipers in the Tuscan hills, and Rebecca had careened off the path, hitting her head, and now lay on the ground, gripping her calf. A snake nearby, fascists on the slope, and it was impossible to see. Her father asked for a match, then quickly doused it. "It's nothing but a thorn, a drop of blood and a scratch on your head. I'll be very still," or the burst of light from the metal torch seemed to explode in their faces. Suddenly, the voice behind the light was screaming, "You're in the presence of the Armed Vigilance Corps of the Fascist Youth. We expect immediate compliance. State your names and present your papers." Then, as if intuiting something, the imperious adolescent's tone began to drip with sarcasm. "Or, are you gypsies? Are you mentally deficient? Or are you Jews?" The one flashlight increased to 4, and all of them now swerved to play on Juliana's father and her mother. "What is your name, Jew?" There was hesitation. Then, "My name is Adolfo," her father replied. Juliana recognized the tone her father used when he told the punchline to a joke. "And are you a Jew, Adolfo? One ought to steal from good Italians and beat their children?" "No." "I believe the answer is yes, at least to one of those questions. A half-tanned face suggests that very recently there was a long Jewish beard hanging from your face. Now empty your pockets," he screamed, playing the light across the frightened faces and pointing to the ragged coat. Her father turned out his pockets, as did each of the others. Only Juliana's mother, left hand, remained inside the pocket of her jacket. "Pull it out! Pull it out! What are you hiding?" the young Nazi said, advancing toward her. "Open your hand!" After the blow, the flashlight searched belligerently in the dry leaves where the woman had fallen. The scramble of the man who had felled her now echoing high up the slope. And all that Juliana would remember from that night were her mother's fingers curled around 2 golden stars, one she had clipped from her husband's coat, and her daughter's, her act of love and hope. So that is part of the beginning.
That was marvelous. Thank you so much for sharing that with us.
You're welcome.
Rena, yours is the first published book of the year to be the beneficiary of the Omega Project, established by lifetime FWA member David Harding in honor of his late wife, Catherine DePumpo Harding, an ardent supporter of Florida writers over the years. 50 volunteers have received a check for $25 from the Omega Project and have committed to purchase, read, and honestly review your book in a timely fashion. The object is to help launch our premier authors effort. Sounds pretty cool. What are your thoughts?
It is amazingly cool. It's a wonderful gift by David Hardy in honor of his wife, Catherine, and a truly unique concept which benefits actually many people in multiple ways. To have a trophy or medallion or a physical award to hold in your hand is a tremendous thrill. And I will have that thrill every time I look at both this beautiful medallion and some
medallion.
beautiful trophies. But the Omega Project is a dynamic award. allowing 50 people to immediately, hopefully, enjoy reading the book of the year. And then through their reviews, it will alert other readers to a piece of literature that's worth reading. And of course, the hardest part, as all writers know, is that process of getting a worthy piece of writing before a public that doesn't know it's there. So my deepest thanks to David Harding. It's a wonderful, wonderful way to honor his wife.
You've written of your belief that all art is connected. Can you talk to us a little about that?
Yes, this is kind of something I think about a lot. I guess I believe that it's connected in that each sensation we experience when we, say, paint a picture or play a note, if you're a musician, or swirl in a dance, we write a word, it's all part of a sensory whole, kind of individual emotional impressions that are kept in what I think of as like a subterranean bank where they're all on deposit. It's where words or melody or movement from one can be appropriated for art of a different kind, sort of taking from one into a sister sphere, as it were. For instance, the description, a cerulean sky, which I love that word. I've got some cerulean paint on my easel right now, or in the rhythm of a poem, there is music. So each art form can nourish another one. These are artistic analogs, and analogies for me are the magic in literature. It has these connections and from one thing or experience from another that illuminates our writing and helps readers actually understand it better, but in an experiential way. So yes, I think connections are amazing. Analogies.
It's time for true confessions. I believe you have some interesting methods of producing good, convincing dialogue. Share with us.
I don't think they're unique. First of all, every writer, no doubt, in order to have good, convincing dialogue, has to listen. Know her demographic, listen carefully to the speech patterns and the rhythm. But also, I think it can happen in an authentic way when the author speaks the words out loud. Maybe you have to, like I just did, yell them. Or maybe you'll growl, or maybe you whisper them. But just again, as the artist moves in the studio, the painter moves his body around to see what that feels like, or the musician sings to himself a melody in his head, the author, I think, should try for a moment to become the character, just for that moment, to feel the words in his own mouth, and thereby kind of deepening the understanding of his subject as he goes. And soon it probably will feel like the characters take control of their own lives and you're just running across the page in pursuit of them. But in this case, instead of walking in their shoes, your words will be speaking from their hearts. So I think it will be a little more real.
You didn't start writing novels until fairly recently. Your first novel came out 7 years ago. What was that about?
I'm glad you didn't say late in life, because
No,
that would have
please,
hurt
oh my
my
heaven.
No, no, but yeah, even though I had written short stories and poems that had actually, won some prizes, and doing magazines and other journalistic work, I had never approached the complexity of a sort of never before climbed mountain of a novel. It had stymied me, and just felt that it was something I wouldn't have in me. But in thinking about it, I think it's kind of like the maturation of a young woman's body, that there are certain things that you don't begin, like conception, for instance, until you have reached your maturity. So yes, I didn't write my first novel until I was, we'll say, mature. My second one came a few years later, and my third soon after that. But by then, I had so much to draw on. Leper Islands, where I'd been, Southern lynching tales, and I'd been in a place where that actually happened. Italian hill towns, several years at sea, many countries, backstage life, lovers, husbands, and thousands of memorable people. So these are all the things of novels. And I would simply advise anyone who hasn't written a novel to look and listen and then imagine. And one day you will write your book or two or more.
Marina Brown, Renaissance woman, is a poet and author of short stories and the novels Land Without Mirrors, Lisbeth, and The Orphan of Pitiliano. Marina, thank you so much for spending this time with us. It's been a joy to chat with you today. Florida Writers Association wishes you the best of luck with your book, The Orphan of Pitiliano, the Royal Palm Literary Award winner for Published Book of the Year. Thanks.
My great pleasure. Thank you so much.